and Bing. And we're live. It's the Local Support Foreign Direction Arrow Cooperative Client Meeting. It's Sam and Rachel, and it's a Thursday morning, and I'm going to pop this onto screen share. And so, yes, not a huge amount to update from last week. We do have Michael and I have got sorted and can now, I think, properly demo for you the work that they've done so far. I've just kind of updated the meeting notes, removing the sort of the minor done things. We've got the usual outstanding things that I'm hoping to get to once I'm fully back to my health. We've got the notes that we had from last week about changes to the you know, the form for loading of things, but yeah, they haven't made any. I think they haven't made any more fundamental changes there. But we have now got the demo site, which is this one. This is map markers here. We've got that all set up. Like, the problem was that the email wasn't working on it, and so this, that, and the other. But so I've just run through here the process of creating a new organization. And so the other thing that was sort of tripping me up was that, so the way that they've done it initially is, so this add organization button, which you can see here at the bottom, and that I showed you last week, it sets you up to sort of do this sign up. At the moment, that's the only pathway they've so far implemented. So it's sort of you know, the sort of story they're working from is they're assuming, right, this is somebody who has not yet logged into not yet signed up for the system, and they want to create a new organization. And so, you know, the add organization button works there. You go through the sign up, which I've just been through, and rather than doing it again, it brings you to this page. So it takes you straight to, and you see here in the title bar, this is a proposed organization, and so this is the new form field for the proposed organization. Now, the way that they have set it up is it takes you directly to this page, and you can even go ahead and submit this, you know, you're creating the proposed organization before you've actually confirmed your account. Okay. Which I think is perhaps, yes, I'm not sure that's necessarily the ideal flow. Anyway, that's something we could discuss. But then basically, if you submit your, it's certainly the setup here, it allows anybody to submit something as long as they at least fill in an address and a password. Although that email address, because it's not being confirmed, could be a random email address. Yeah. And then, so the user comes to this page and they get the little thing, as you can see, the organization is pending admin approval. And so then when the admin user is logged in, they come now to this all proposed organizations. And so you can see now here, we've got the organizations that have been proposed, and you can see the email that the user typed in, although I don't think there's no guarantee that that email is confirmed. And then we've got the view details button there, and that takes us to this page, which is just that the admin can see this is proposed organizations, and then the admin can accept or reject the organization based on, you know, is this a sensible thing, or is just, well, you know, what it is. But anyway, that's now the whole flow of what they've done so far.
And I can see the pros of both ways, because I think this way is easier for the user. But if they do the wrong email address, then we'll find out, mightn't we?
Well, I think it's an interesting question, and it's sort of, I think there are pros and cons of both ways. Where I would almost argue, though, and I'll discuss this with Michael, is it feels like this has got kind of a little bit of a mix of the wrong, or at least I would say, like, the existing form, you know, in terms of it allows somebody to submit an organization for approval without requiring any kind of sign up, is what it currently does, right? I mean, anybody can submit it. There's no effort whatsoever. In the current setup here, where we request that the person who wants to propose the organization signs in, then it kind of, you know, it's sort of like, at least I could imagine, I mean, maybe this is, I don't know, just me, but you know, if I'm in like, oh yes, there was that organization that I wanted to, oh yes, right, okay, and I found that, oh yes, oh well, we're not in there, you know, person browsing the site, and they click on the ad organization. You know, I think this sign up process of like, oh, I've got to remember a password for another site, or I've got to sign in, or kind of, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It sort of serves as a block to people who might otherwise kind of submit the information. Whereas if it just took us straight from the ad organization link to the form, then, you know, there's
anything.
I mean, it's sort of, I mean, of course, the flip side is that by having this sign up thing pop up, you kind of filter out the people who are perhaps less serious. If you can't be bothered to, you know, sign up for the site, then perhaps you're not that serious about your organization anyway. But I guess, I don't know what, I mean, if we look back, so over the last year, how many people have used the Google form that you...
Not many, and they've all been groups I know of. So I'm just sort of thinking from my point of view, if I was receiving this and I saw a group that I didn't know, if what I'd first do is check they've got a website, and if they've got a public website and the details matched with somebody from their website contact, I would just accept them. If that wasn't the case, I wouldn't accept them. I would contact them first. So I'd do that either by email, or if they had a website, I might go through there. If it seemed really odd that I didn't recognise them at all, Hotmail address, and I would maybe contact them and ask something on head or something like that.
That all sounds eminently sensible. Sorry, do go on.
No, that would be it really. And
no, I mean, that sounds absolutely right. I mean, I guess it's just from my point, given that we don't have so much footfall on the site, I guess my temptation would be, other things being equal, to err on the side of just allowing non-signed in users to submit anyway. Do you know what I mean? Like, because like if we were in a situation where we were a very big popular site and there was lots of spam and it was kind of going to be a big burden on you to be reviewing hundreds of ridiculous joke submissions every week, then absolutely we want to put a little bit of a barrier, you know, in order to reduce your workload. Whereas at the moment, since, you know, it's like it's quite minimal, the number of people who are submitting, then I guess everything we can do to make that, you know, the flow of submission as simple as possible is to the benefit of the site overall. Would you agree? And I think that's particularly the case if what we seem to be doing here is we're asking the person to sort of sign up and go through this bit of additional thing which sort of blocks people, but then having asked them to sign up, we are actually allowing them to submit without having confirmed that their email is a correct one. Do you know what I mean? So it seems a bit, I mean, it could go either way. We could say, right, you know, here we could say we won't take them to this page until they've confirmed their account, and then when they come back and they sign in, you know, from their confirmed email address, then we would let them see this page. Or we just, you know, on this page, we don't bother popping this up. We just clicking on this button should take us straight to this page, and we don't worry about asking for a confirmed email. You know, I mean, almost what I would be tempted to do is, like, with that flow, if the person is then typing their email address in here, then when they submit this organization, at the point at which that you would approve it, or even like submitting the organization would automatically create an account associated with this email, perhaps.
No, I think that makes sense to do it at that point, and then that will also verify it. So if there's a problem with the email address, we know.
I mean, that sort of excuse me, go on.
Could email verification go to both the one that you've highlighted, also the admin yet? Because
well, that's another. Clearly, if one was adding multiple admins, but I mean, there's a question there about, I mean, for clearly in the long run that should be the case. There's a question there about you know, what's the point at which to create the user accounts? I mean, I think with our current relatively low footfall site, it's probably in our interest to, you know, create the accounts early. For example, I mean, I guess there's a workflow where you could say that a person proposes an organization and then wants to come back and adjust their proposal before the admin has had a chance to do so. And, you know, for that purpose, they would need an account. But
yeah, I'm just thinking that if you've got an organisation that's got a generic email address,
yes,
the person filling it in maybe doesn't have access to.
Sure. Yes. Absolutely. So it's yes. I mean, there's an interesting question about yes. I mean, I was just saying to Michael that I thought in some ways I think that maybe the place to start would have been from the more conservative one of, okay, rather than worrying about that flow, let's just assume that the person has signed up and now they want to add an organization. And I think that you know, that's maybe the simpler place to be.
I don't think that will happen. I'm just thinking that I was at a meeting on Monday and and after the meeting I noticed somebody had gone to in the proper site, the add organisation, but they hadn't signed up.
Yes.
So the automatic thing was to go to that, okay, I'm going to add an organisation rather than to sign up or log in.
Oh yes, but I mean, what we're doing is we're asking them to sign up. So I mean, things are there. But in terms of, I'm not talking about the final system, as in we would always require people to sign up to do it. I mean, in terms of like we can break the functionality into different pieces. So there's you know, in order for us to get the workflow, say for example for you, for accepting and rejecting working, and in order to just get this form, you know, kind of into a, like, if we take the tactical assumption that people are signed up and get it working, you know, at the moment admins can already create new organizations. If we made the flow for already signed up people, because there are some people who are signed up who may want to add an additional organization. So you know, if we got that working, and then finally dealt with the situation of people who are not logged in at all, because the problem is, as we try and cope with a more complex setup, we sort of end up falling over ourselves. So it's about slicing these things into the small pieces. But what I am hearing from what you're saying is, yes, absolutely, it should work for people who are not signed in. And would you go so far as to say that we shouldn't require people to create accounts before they can submit an organization?
I just think it feels the natural flow that people who are coming to this website, as in an organisation, they're finding that path and they're finding that form and filling that in, but they haven't necessarily logged in. So I mean, from your point of view, if they clicked on add organisation and they went straight to this form, that would make sense. Yes. And I mean, and if we do that, then there's I mean, they could do that and they could submit it. It would still be verified. Yeah,
it would still need to be verified by you. And there's a question of when and if some user accounts would be created in order for them to. I mean, it sort of makes sense to me that they that at least I mean, or a combination of, you know, the sort of the sent to take care of the different cases is at the time that you approved it, that there would then also be an automated email that went out not only to this email address but also to these whatever ones were here, saying your organization has been approved, and please click on this, you know, link to confirm your account, which will allow you to make subsequent edits to your organization. And so it might be the case that the email here was some, you know, info@charity.org that the person didn't have access to, but it would seem to me there's no harm in principle in sending an invite to that, as long as the person who was creating it was also able to, you know, specify their personal one here. And so, you know, to take account of the situations where, you know, to keep with a sort of a simple form, you know, that would sort of cover all the bases, if you know what I mean. Yeah, so I think yes. I mean, Michael will not necessarily will kind of go. I can imagine him raising his eyebrows when we talk about the the way that this flow. I think fitting in with his. But that, of course, is what this is all about. Is that the flow that one might design is not necessarily the one that fits in with the organization. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, are you're happy that we're on the same page there? Yeah. Good show. Okay. Yeah. Well, that was the main thing, really. I don't think that we are updated. In any other capacity at the moment. We could do a quick check for whether Google has decided to give us subpages yet, and the answer is no. We're still third in the list there. And we've got, I mean, I still need to get around to the map icons thing. I saw the person who originally worked on that yesterday. Marion and Michael John working on that organization we talked about. Yes, and we need to get to, hopefully we'll vote on some of these new stories tomorrow. We will see. Yeah, okay. Well, that's all I have this week. Anything from your side?
No, nothing really.
No.
Well, apart from the meeting on Monday was the forum, which is a meeting you came to once.
Oh yeah.
You're the ones that were interested in maybe using Harrow Community Network, so they are interested. So I need to discuss with them again. Be similar to what we talked about before. So
yeah, like being able to sort of mark some organisations as being specifically the Harrow Community Forum, and maybe sort of like a slightly different branding of the sites for them. For this is our group, to allow them to sort of coordinate with each other.
How easy would it be to put? Say if we did that, and you had like just a forum, and they had their own website. How easy would it be to put that map into somebody else's website, but us still having that back end?
That's an interesting question. Not necessarily that hard in principle, although I think we would need to be carefully specifying what functionality they were wanting to have in their websites. I mean, effectively, I mean, one could have a JavaScript plugin in somebody else's site that requested information from our site and our sites, a bit like what Do It does, although rather grudgingly, is we could make the data from our sites available to be embedded in other sites, which is an interesting thing. It's certainly
it's come up a couple of times. We want a directory of, like, there's another group I've been involved with around like a youth partnership, and they want to know where all the youth groups working with youth are. So again, whether using that system we talked about for the forum, that there'd be an extra tick box. Yes, I want to be included on the Harrow website.
Yes.
That they've ticked it, then they would appear. Rather than us having one database, the forum has a database. The youth partnership has another database, and it ought to be one sort of central point, and then you're just using the information.
Right. Well, I mean, I think it would be, they would all be in, at least from the sort of tick in the form or what have you, it would all be one database, but there would be different views on that database. So you could have the view of the youth groups, on that database, or you'd have a view of the Harrow Community Forum, and then that would be kind of like exporting a view or like a subset of the organizations in our database, so that they were visible in another site. So that's it's certainly doable. It's not trivial. I mean, I think it was something. I mean, that they're, particularly when we get to other people's sites and where they're hosted and what programming languages we're allowed to use within their sites and so on, and adding that code to their site. There's there's some unknowns there.
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, what would be simpler to do in the first instance would be to have a specific endpoint on our site, So, for example, if we had we could have something like, oh, I don't know, what's the name of the forum? It's called.
It's just a voluntary community sector forum.
Voluntary community sector forum.
Yeah.
Like we could have something like that,
Yeah.
like a subdomain. All of that will cost more money for it to be secure. But we could have something like this that would redirect to, and then it would automatically have certain categories selected, so that when you landed there, you'd get that view of the database that had only those organizations involved, or things like this. You could have the charity, the youth forums or something like that. Yeah, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, so if they had their own website, they could just have a link to it rather than it being embedded.
They could have a link to it. I mean, there's also the simple embedding is that they could have an iframe. I mean, that would pull in the whole of this, and wouldn't necessarily look fantastically pretty. But yes, they could certainly have a link to that, which may be what we might prefer in order to drive traffic to our site. To have like this portion, a kind of to have like this portion of the site embedded into somebody else's without our branding and so on. Again, that could be, yeah, there are ways and means. I mean, I think that one would want to be looking carefully at what's best for us as Harrow Community Network, and what's best for that organization, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Cool. All right.
Right.
Nice one. Okay. Well, I guess same time next week, and yeah, I'll get all that back to Michael, and maybe I will either myself or we'll have found somebody to make some more progress on this map icon setup. Yeah. Cool.
Okay. All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye for now. Take care.
Bye.